Broadwater reporter. We would like to say thank you for taking time out to come and learn a little bit more about some candidates that's going to be running for county attorney for Broadwater County. My name is Trudy Sapwick. I'm with the Broadwater reporter, and we have a moderator, Gayanne Mazzola, and then our timekeeper, Liz Wood from Wood Family Grill. And Gayanne's going to give you the rules and give these guys the rules. And with a coin toss just a few minutes ago, Mr. Morris won the start but deferred it to Mr. Swanson. So we have.
I want to receive on the second half.
So we have Cory Swanson and we have Jack Morris. Before she gives us the rules, if everyone would stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. And we all. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First of all, we want to thank Trudy and the Broadwater Reporter and the Rod and Gun Club for doing this. It's really a great time for us to find out who the candidates are. And we also really want to thank the candidates for running, because I think it's a big job and we appreciate you doing it. It's not easy to run for public office. You're criticized and you're praised. We'll respect the candidates, and we will allow questions from the audience later. We do have a list of questions that we'll ask here. And if anyone becomes belligerent or extremely angry or causes problems, I'll throw you out. You're all safe, you know that. And I always think about when I was in legislature, the first thing they always told us in the Business of Labor committee was, your job's to talk, our job's to listen, make sure we don't quit before you. I always think about that. We're going to give each candidate the opportunity for a 5-minute introductory speech, and then I will ask you the questions, the same question, and you'll each have 3 minutes to answer. And then you'll be allowed to ask their opponents, if you want to, each other a question. And then you'll be given 3 minutes to answer that. And Liz is in charge of all the timing. And are you ready to start?
For hosting and for moderating this. Thank you to Trudy and the Gun Club for hosting this. And thank you all for coming. And feel free to ask us hard questions. Ask the harder ones to Jack. I do want to, before we begin, introduce my wife, Julie Swanson, is here in the front row. And my father, John Swanson's here, and my mother and one of my sisters will be here in a while. They're coming in, so I guess just to begin, everyone's wondering who is this Cory Swanson guy, and we placed some literature there on the chair for you to look at. We've had some things in the newspaper, and that's just kind of a bio. And you can look at our bio, and that's great. That tells you a little bit about who we are. But really, what you want to know is, what am I going to do, and how am I going to do it? And so to tell you that, I will tell you the reason that I decided to run for this office. I have been a lawyer. I graduated from law school 10 years ago. I'm in the National Guard, so in that time, right after I graduated, in fact, I immediately got deployed to Iraq. I've gone twice, and that's been a bit of a disruption in my legal career, but you learn things about life and leadership and working with people through that you can't find in a law office. Then I was working in a civil law firm and became a partner in a firm and worked there for 5 years. And right now I work for the Montana Attorney General, and I do a lot of civil law, I do a little bit of criminal law, and I've taken on some very big cases, and I've taken on some really small cases, and I've taken on just some tough policy issues. And so along that way, I've always wanted to be a prosecutor and be somebody who is focused on the law enforcement part of the law. And the reason for that is because as a civil lawyer, a lot of times you deal with things that are kind of the cleanest part of the law. Not always. You get into family issues and they can be really messy. But a lot of times you're dealing with, a particular lawsuit where you're dealing with the clean part of the law. But you get into criminal law and you're dealing with people that really, really need help. You're dealing with crime victims who really need to be taken care of, who really need to know that someone there who's in a position of authority cares about how they were hurt. And you need to deal with defendants who are scared to death. They did something really stupid, and they need to know that even if they're ultimately found guilty, that the system's fair. And you're dealing with judges who are looking to you to give you the best answer. And you're looking to law enforcement that's going to care about the fact, or that you're going to care about the fact that they worked really hard to put a case together, and you're not just going to throw it in the garbage. And you get into situations where you meet people where they're really vulnerable and they really need someone that cares about justice. And I want to be able to come into that situation and tell the people, look, you're not going to always like what I do. You're not always going to like the decisions I make, and sometimes I'm going to screw up at a trial. But I come to the table caring about justice, caring about you if you were hurt, caring about giving you a fair trial, caring about the cops who are out there risking their life on a daily or weekly basis. And that's what I want to bring to this position. I also want to bring some leadership and some opportunities to heal some of the divisions in the community and among the county government. I'll talk about that a little bit later. But we have some people problems. We don't necessarily have insurmountable constitutional problems. We have relationship problems, and they can be fixed and they can be healed. And I've talked a lot in the newspaper, and I've put things in there about being positive and about teamwork and about looking for a future, a community where we get along with each other. And that's because I've been through some horrendously difficult situations where people were nearly hating each other, and we had to learn to bring those relationships back together. And that's what I want to do on a daily, weekly basis in this position of county attorney. Now, I'm not the lawyer who's got the most trials. Yeah, I've done some real big trials, and I've done some real big cases, and there's a lot of stuff I still have to learn. But the one thing I can tell you is I can come to the office every day, caring about people, treating them with civility and respect, and working with people, admitting my own mistakes, and working with people to make our processes get better, and try to get over this, what's been now a couple years of division and fighting that everybody I've talked to is tired of it. Everybody's tired of it, and they say, let's just get the right answers, and let's try to do better, week by week and month by month. So that'd be my commitment of what you can expect from me. You can't expect perfection, but you can expect me to give you my very best.
Thank you. Before I get started, I just want to thank Cory for the way he's been running the campaign. When I decided to run, I looked Cory up, and we shook hands and we talked and we said, good on you, and let's have a nice clean race, and I appreciate that. Anyway, my name is Jack Morris, and I grew up in Madison County, Montana. I went to school at Butte Central Catholic High School. My mother thought we needed religion, so she sent us all to Butte for school. But I know I grew up on my grandpa's ranch, and I've done all kinds of different jobs. On my handout, I got kind of my resume for the Broadwater County Attorney. After law school, I had the opportunity to clerk for a judge named Frank Davis. This was during one of my summer, and Frank was down in Dillon, Montana, and he was the judge on the, if you remember, the Mountain Man case from Big Sky, where Cory Swanson, the biathlete, was kidnapped by Dan and Don Nichols. Frank was the judge on that, and he was a real character, and I really enjoyed my time, and I learned a lot from him. But my first job out of law school, I clerked for Jeff Sherlock, who used to be your judge down here in Broadwater County, and that's when I first met John Flynn back in about 1991. And my first job after clerking for Jeff Sherlock was I went back to Whitehall, where I grew up. A man named John Jardine had been the lawyer in Whitehall since 1951, and he took the practice over from a guy named Philip Duncan, who became the district court judge. The dean from the law school brought John down to Whitehall and introduced him, and that's how John got to Whitehall. Well, same thing. John called me up and said, "I'm getting ready to retire, Jack. Well, here's the keys." And so that's how I started my career in the law. And boy, I'll tell you what, I learned fast and I learned on the go. I graduated from Gonzaga over in Spokane, Washington, and a lot of my friends went to some of these bigger law firms, and I'd talk to them periodically, and I would say, "God, I got a case or a trial. I'm going to court," and so they were shocked. They couldn't go to court for 5 years until they made their the partners didn't trust them. But in a small rural community like Whitehall, I started from day one. I go to court, and I still go to court a couple of times a week. Being a small town attorney, you don't get to pick who your clients are. My office was, John's office was right across the street from the post office in Whitehall. So I knew when the mail got delivered, we had an open door policy. People would come in with letters or whatnot, and they'd want to talk to you without appointments, and that's just the way it was done. I practiced law in Whitehall for close to 18 years. I represented small business people. I represented the Golden Sunlight Mine, which was one of the bigger employers in the whole Jefferson Valley. I did a lot of their real estate transactional work. I represented Smith Contracting. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of the Yellowstone Club or a guy named Tim Blixus. Well, back in the 90s, I got a call from my client who had been building the roads for this place, and Mr. Blixus owed my client something to the tune of $800,000. And he said, what do I do? So this is in the early 90s, I look at the construction lien law, and that's one of the things about being a small town lawyer. We don't specialize. We have to learn, and we jump around from subject to subject. Well, I slapped the construction lien on the entire 23,000 acres of what became the Yellowstone Club. And about a week later, I get a call from a law firm in Portland with about 10 names attached to it, and they told me they were going to chainsaw me if I didn't remove the lien. And I said, well, you're going to have to come to Montana and deal with it. Well, bottom line is my client got paid, and we all know what happened to the Yellowstone Club. But I have a very varied background in law. Judge Davis, when a new lawyer came to his district, and the district was Beaverhead, Madison, and Jefferson counties, we didn't have a public defender's office. So he thought that the best way to go was to give the new lawyers the public defender cases. So I got a lot of public defender cases, and there's one in particular that I'm real proud of. It's called State versus McLeese. And what that case went to the Montana Supreme Court, and what it stands for is there's something called the apparent authority doctrine. We used to have that. That's what the federal standard is. But my case, and I was only out of law school 6 or 7 years when this happened. Now in Montana, the law is that for the police to search someone's residence, they have to have actual authority from an owner, not from a neighbor, not from a babysitter, not from a landlord. But that's a case that I did back in the 90s, and that's great experience that I got. The reason I'm running for county attorney in this job, I've tried over 100 cases in my career, and what I've seen lately is a lot of lack of discretion. Either prosecutors aren't prosecuting people that need to be prosecuted, or they're overcharging people. And I've got a lot of clients who aren't your average, what you call criminal, that I've represented. So, thank you.